In this tutorial series, you will learn how to make SuperHot in Unity. This is the first part of the tutorial series in which you will learn how to make the movement system, the time mechanics, and also the shooting mechanics. In the end of the tutorial video, you will be able to make this. So without wasting time, let's get started. So here I have a simple scene set up with some area lights and a map that is made up of cubes and some post-processing going on. First thing, of course, what we need to do is to make an FPS controller. Go to Asset Store and then search here standard assets. And the first one, this is made by Unity and it's also free. And then you have to just download it and import it, and here we have it. So we don't actually need standard sample scene, and then we're gonna go ahead and open up the standard assets and say none. We only need the characters folder, and in the characters folder we need the first person character controller. But in order for the first person character controller to work, we need the cross platform input and also the utility, say import, and it's just gonna import it. There we go. Now we can see the standard assets over here. If I go back to the scene, standard assets, and in there we have characters folder, go to characters, first person character controller, prefabs, and just drag and drop the rigid body FPS controller in there. And if I just simply disable the main camera and then select the FPS controller and play the game, I should be able to move around. So there we go, we can look around with the mouse, and I can also run around, jump around like a normal FPS controller. However, the post-processing is gone that I just made, so we can just simply fix that. If you have a post-processing going on in a separate camera, like in my case I have this main camera in which all the post-processing is going on, I can just simply copy the post-processing layer, copy this component, go in here and paste the component right in here, paste as new, and bam, the post-processing is also enabled. So now if you play the game, we should be able to move around, jump around, and do that all good stuff. Now only thing we need to do is to add a pistol so that we can shoot around, and also some time mechanics so that when we stop, the time should also stop, because this is basically what happens in SuperHot. So let's quickly go ahead and make that. I already have imported the pistol that looks something like this. If you want to download it, the link will be in the description box below. I'm gonna just go ahead and drag and drop it inside of the main camera there, and then I'm gonna go ahead and press F so that we can zoom in. Then I'm gonna go ahead and reset its transform, move it up and down, and place it somewhere over here so that we can place it somewhat like a first person character controller. Now if I move the pistol back a little bit, you can see it starts clipping over here. So how do we fix that? Well, simply go to main camera and decrease the near value over here. I'm going to decrease it to 0.1. There we go. Now as you can see, there is no artifact going on in here. Yeah, looks good to me. Now let's go ahead and add some material to it. I already have made a pistol material that is just simply black, and this is what it looks like. Now if you play the game, the pistol should move around with the camera because it is the child of the camera, because it is inside the camera. So as you can see, it looks good, and I made the pistol shiny so that it shines with the sun, and everything is pretty nicely working. Now we need to add some kind of a shooting mechanics. For the shooting mechanics, we of course need to make a bullet. Before we make anything, we of course need to have some kind of a spawn point, which should be somewhere over here for the bullets, so where the bullets will spawn, right? So I'm gonna go in the pistol, I'm gonna say right click, create an empty game object. I'm gonna call this bullet spawner, place it somewhere inside the barrel, in front of the barrel, just like this. This will be the point from which the bullets will be spawned. So now for the bullet, let's go ahead and right click, create 3D game object and a sphere, and rename it to bullet. And the sphere is really big, so we have to make it smaller, smaller, and smaller. And we can maybe make it oval shape so that it looks like a bullet. We can make it more smaller. Yeah, cool. Now this will be our bullet. Now what we want our bullet to do is to move forward with some speed, and we want it to move forward till it hits something. Now here comes coding. Now if you are a subscriber to my channel, then you know that we don't do any coding in this channel. We use Playmaker for the coding. So I already have imported Playmaker over here. If you don't know what Playmaker is, it is a really cool asset that helps you make games without writing a single line of code. Now if you want that Playmaker, you can buy it from Asset Store, or if you can't afford it, or if you don't want to download it, if you want to check it out, you can download it for free. The first link will be in the description box below from where you can download it for free. So go ahead and just download this folder and then drag and drop it inside of Unity and you will be good to go. You can go to the bullet, say add component and say FSM. FSM basically is a state machine of the Playmaker, and that basically helps you make games without writing a single line of code. So go to the FSM and say edit. So we're going to simply go ahead and drag and drop the bullet outside so that we can work on the bullet alone. And I'm going to go ahead and say double click translate. Translate basically associated with the transform. So we want the bullet to move forward in the forward direction in the X direction. So we're going to go ahead and say move in the X direction with speed of 0.01 so that it moves really slowly, so that we can see if it's moving in the right direction or not. So I'm going to go ahead and play the game and see if it is moving in the right direction or not. It is moving backwards in the opposite direction. So what we have to do is we have to say minus over here so that it moves in the forward direction. So now as you can see, the bullet is moving in the forward direction with some speed. I can increase the speed to 0.1 and it moves like that. So it's pretty cool. Now what we want to do is we want to detect whether or not it is colliding with something. How we do that is by shooting a laser. So we say raycast. Basically raycast is a laser that shoots out, and we decide the direction and from where it shoots. So I'm gonna go ahead and shoot the laser from this game object, that is the bullet, and the direction will be in the X direction, so -1, and the distance will be 1, and we're gonna debug that so that we can see the laser. And I'm gonna set this to red so that we can see it clearly. And also I'm gonna go ahead and disable the translate for now so that it does not move, so that we can only focus on the raycast. So now if we zoom in, as you can see, it is shooting the laser in the right direction, but still the laser is a little too big, so we have to decrease the size. So we can decrease the size to 0.1. Yeah, 0.1 is okay, good. So come out of the game view and you can see the distance comes back to the normal, so we have to put back the values to 0.1. Now what we want to do is we want to say when this laser hits something, we want to do something, right? So here is a hit event. So it says whenever it hits something, we're gonna go to transition to new state. So make a new state, control click over here, and we're gonna say when it hits something, we want to test. We're gonna check what it hits. So make a new event, say check what it hits, whether it hits the enemy or whether it hits something else. So we are also gonna store the game objects that we hit. So store the hit object into a new variable called test obj. Okay, not ibj, but I'm not gonna change the name because we don't have any time. So we're gonna go ahead and test whether or not we hit the enemy or the normal obstacle thing, that the walls or something like that. So now in this scene we don't have actually any enemy, so we're gonna go ahead and create, right click, make a capsule there. This will represent our enemy, so this will be our enemy dummy basically. So go to materials and add a material to it just like that, and I'm gonna rename this to enemy. So this will be our enemy for now, and in the future videos we will make another enemy that will be actual human, and we're gonna use this low poly guy. So yeah, stay tuned. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to it so that you don't miss any future videos. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and add a tag, a new tag, and we're gonna call this tag enemy, and we're gonna assign the enemy with the enemy tag so that we can know that this guy over here is the enemy with the enemy tag. We're gonna go back to the bullet and say edit the FSM, and we're gonna go ahead and say compare tag, game object compare tag. So we're gonna compare the tag of the object that we'd hit. We stored that object in a variable called test ibj, and we're gonna compare the tag with the enemy. So if it is enemy, if the event is true, then we're gonna go to a new event and we're gonna say kill enemy, and we're gonna make the event make a new state, bam, make a new state, come in here. If it is false, which means if we hit a wall or something else, then we want to destroy the bullet. So destroy the bullet, because we don't want the bullet sticking out of something that is, yeah, simply destroy the bullet. So we're gonna go ahead and say destroy self, meaning it will destroy itself. Cool. And if it hits enemy, we can do something with this guy. We can just simply disable this guy to just see whether or not we hit it. So we're gonna say activate game object. Activate game object means we can activate or deactivate anything, and we want to activate the game object, the specified game object that we just hit, which will be the enemy, right? And we're gonna deactivate that by just unchecking that. Cool. And then after killing the enemy, we want to come back and destroy the whole bullet also. So we're gonna go ahead and say next frame event, meaning what happens after we execute this action. We're gonna go ahead and say destroy ourselves, which is over here, destroy self. Cool. We're gonna go ahead and check the translates, and we're gonna make it move with the speed of -1, and let's see if it's working or not. There's the bullet going with the speed of 1. Where the heck is it now? We can't. Yeah, there we go. The enemy just vanished, which means the bullet hit the enemy. We're gonna go ahead and play it again, and this time we are gonna come out of the game view and select the bullet, press F, and play the game. Now we can simply see the bullet over here. We can see the bullet is moving. It's about to hit the enemy, and when it hits the enemy, bam, the enemy destroys, and the bullet also destroys itself. So this is pretty much working. Now what we want to do is we want to shoot the bullet when we click, right? So we want to fire the bullet when we click. So that is also pretty simple. First thing what we would do is we would go ahead and say right click, create a folder in here. We will call this prefabs, and open up the prefabs folder and drag and drop the bullet that we just made in here. So now this bullet is now the prefab. Okay, so now if it's prefab, we can simply delete it over here. Next thing, we can go to the rigid body controller. I'm gonna just simply call it player to make it simpler. Add an FSM in the rigid body controller and say edit. And in here we're gonna say get button down, get mouse button down. Yeah, come on, get mouse button down. Basically it means when we click a mouse button, we want to say left click, which is basically the click for the firing, and we're gonna go ahead and say new event fire. Basically it means when we press the left click, we want to go ahead and fire, make a new state in which we will fire. We're gonna go ahead and say create game object. Basically we want to create the game object that will be the bullet, and we're gonna create that in the bullet spawner, which means we are gonna go ahead and create the bullet over here. Cool. And after creating the bullet, after firing, we want to go ahead and come back. So just control click, say finished, come back over here and say next frame event, meaning that whenever we execute this action, we are going to say finished, and we're gonna come back to the normal idle state. Cool. Now basically we should be able to shoot bullets. So if we click now, bam, there's a bullet going on in here, and the enemy dies. Yeah, the bullet is really slow, so we have to increase the speed of the bullet, and that is pretty simple. We have to come out, say bullet, open up prefab, and we're gonna go ahead to edit in the FSM, and we're gonna go ahead and increase the speed from 1 to 10, because we basically cannot see the bullet. We can set it to 5, maybe 6 maybe. Let's come out of the prefab mode over here, play the game, and yeah, test the speed of the bullet. It is -6 now. Yeah, basically it is good now. The speed of the bullet is good. One thing I will like to do is I'm gonna go to prefab materials and set the material to black. There we go. Now if you play the game, everything should be properly working. The speed of the bullet will also be reasonable. Bam. Yeah, it's nice. it is really nice. We can kill the enemy. Basically this is not the enemy, it's just the dummy of the enemy. In the later videos we will add the actual enemy that will run around and shoot around. Stick around to learn how to make an enemy AI that will shoot around and do that, and then later on we will also make levels so that we can switch between levels. Once we completed one level, we should be able to go to the next level. So subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss any video. Now the last thing that is remaining is the time mechanics, right? So that is also pretty simple. We have to go back to the player and add another FSM. This one will be firing that we just made previously. That is this one. So when we click, when we get mouse button down, we're gonna create and then come back, and then in here we are going to say time. Time, yeah, simple time. In here we want to go ahead and say get axis vector, which means we are going to get the values that what we are pressing from the horizontal and vertical, which means WASD basically, and not that technical. So you have to just say that, and then we can go to magnitude and store that in a new variable called magnitude. So if I go to variables, select the magnitude and say inspector, just to show you guys what is basically happening. And if I close that and play the game and look at this, the value of the magnitude. So when I press WASD, the value of the magnitude will increase and decrease. So as you can see, I'm pressing WASD, and if I hold W, it will become 1. And if I release it, it becomes 0. So we are gonna use this value to see whether or not our player is moving or not, right? So our player moves when we press WASD basically, right? So we're gonna stop the time, or we're gonna slow down the time when the value of magnitude is 0, and we're gonna increase the time or make the time normal speed when the value of magnitude is greater than 0. So we're gonna go ahead and say float compare, because the magnitude is float. We're going to compare the float magnitude with a variable with a float 0. If it is equal to 0, or if it is greater than 0, meaning we are moving, then we're going to go ahead and say normal time. So if you are moving, the time should be normal with normal speeds, right? So add transition normal time, make a new state, come over here, and then copy these two actions, paste them over here. And in this one, if the value of magnitude is equal to 0, meaning we are not moving, then we're gonna slow down the time. Every frame, slow time, bam, come in here, yeah. Okay, so let's just simply test it out, make it smaller, and see if it is basically working or not, if my logic is working or not. I should rename the states first. So this is normal, and this is the slow state in which this time should be slow, and this is the normal state in which the time should be of normal speed. So right now we are in slow speed because we are not basically moving at all, and if I move, we are in the normal speed because we are moving. Time moves if we move, so we are moving, the time is normal, and if I stop, the time is slowed down. Cool. Now how we basically slowed, okay, it's giving us an error. We have to store the vector also, just blah blah. Just simply store the vector into something. We don't actually have to use the vector to just get rid of the error. Okay, now basically to slow down the time, it's really simple also. We have to just say time scale or scale time. In the slow time, we're gonna set the time to 0.01 or 0.1, or yeah, we can change the value later. Copy this, paste it in here, and set this to 1. So when the time scale is 1, it means we are moving with normal speed, and when time scale is 0.1, it means we are moving with really slow time. Okay, now basically everything should be properly working. Play the game and you will see that time has slowed down. It has slowed really down, so I will come out and set the time to 0.1 because 0.01 is really slow. come in here and set the time to 0.1. Bam. Come in here, play it again. And this will be basically it. Bam, the time is slowed down, I can move around, and if I jump and stop, the time slows down. Now how do we know if the time has actually slowed down or not? So if I shoot now, as you can see, the bullet is moving really slow, but if I start moving, the bullet goes on really fast. So I made a simple mechanics that a cube will be spawning over here, and this will show how we are slowing down the time. And as you can see, the time has slowed down right now, and if I move, the time starts moving again. So now this time is slowed down, as you can see. Pretty cool. And the cubes are moving in slow motion. Bam, if I go ahead and do that. So if I stop moving, the time also basically stops. Basically not stops, just moves slowly. This is what happens in SuperHot. And if I move, the time is moving with normal speed, and if I stop, the time also slows down. I can also shoot the enemy. Bam, and there we go, killed. So this is how you make the SuperHot shooting mechanics and also the time mechanics and the FPS controller. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel, which is how to do, and so that you don't miss any future videos. And in the next video, we will learn how to make an enemy AI that will shoot back, and yeah, how we kill that enemy, and we can shatter that enemy and do good stuff. And in the last video, we will also learn how to make a level system. So make sure you see the make sure you see that videos. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. And yeah, that is pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed my video, and I will see you in my next video. Till then, peace out.